Welcome and thank you for joining the webinar entitled You Are What You Eat, the Family Plan. My name is Julia Wilkins from Health New England and I'm part of the Health Management Department. If you're listening to this webinar, you've probably already listened to parts 1 through 5 of the You Are What You Eat series. So you've learned about carbohydrates, fats, fruits and vegetables, proteins, and healthy drinks. This webinar will tie all of those things together and also show you how to implement those ideas, those changes, and that information with you at home, with your family. Our true and false question is this: role modeling is the most powerful tool we have when it comes to raising healthy children. What do you think, if that's true or false? Well, the answer is true. So not only do you need to be conscious about what you're feeding your children, you also have to make those healthy choices as well. How many times have we heard the saying, do as I say, not as I do? That doesn't usually work out very well. Children tend to imitate what they see, not only what you tell them. So as parents, family members, guardians, friends, we need to show children healthy choices by making healthy choices ourselves. Having learned what the healthy choices are in all of our food groups, now you want to take this home and maximize your well-being there. So you want to focus on those essential macronutrients. Remember, those are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Any wholesome food really falls into one of those three categories. You want to choose the right macronutrients from the information that you learned in all of the You Are What You Eat series, and also avoid the wrong macronutrients. For example, when we learned about fats, we learned how to incorporate good fats into our diet, like monounsaturated fats found in olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. We also advised you how to get bad or saturated fats and trans fats out of your diet by avoiding all products that are labeled with trans fats, limiting your red meats, and switching out your full fat dairy for skim, low fat, or non-fat. So that would be an example of how to choose the right macronutrients and avoid the wrong ones. So the first part of the You Are What You Eat series talked about avoiding those white hazard foods, so conquering carbs. In your kitchen at home, you want to get rid of all those white carbohydrates and replace them with 100% whole. White flour-based foods are considered white hazards because they have loaded amounts of sugar in them. If you're looking at the nutrition label, you'll see grams of sugar in a product. 4 grams equals a teaspoon of sugar, so you can see how quickly that adds up. So if you have these things in your pantry, you might ask yourself, what can I do to swap them out, replace them, or have something else served at our meals that's a healthier option? For example, if you have white pasta, you can always replace it with a 100% whole wheat version, multigrain, bean-based. There are other product-based pastas that aren't always made with sugar and flour. Now, you don't have to go all the way with this if it's a rough transition for your family. You can always try the 50-50 approach where you have a mixture of a white pasta and whole wheat pasta together so that people can get used to the texture, used to the flavor. Same idea with white rice or white potatoes. White rice can be switched out for brown, black, or wild rice, and white potatoes can be replaced with sweet potatoes, and those blue and purple potatoes you see at the grocery store are a better option as well. Now we're going to talk about those things that you really pinpoint in your mind as sugary foods. So those cakes, cupcakes, pies, cookies, all of those things should really be in moderation, if not in your kitchen at all. But you can replace them with something that's high in antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals and still get that sweet craving fulfilled. So you can have dark chocolate, fresh fruit, maybe a frozen yogurt, anything like that that has less sugar. Any processed foods should not be in your pantry, but these can be deceiving. You might think that something is healthy when it really isn't the best option. So a fat-free salad dressing, flavored yogurt, those sound healthy, right? But those have added sugars, added white hazards in them. Tomato sauce, sugary cereals, flavored instant oatmeal, some breads, those are all examples of processed foods that have additives in them. So always try to stick to the whole version of something. Maybe make your own salad dressing with some olive oil, some vinegar, some seasonings. Stick to the plain Greek yogurt, make your own tomato sauce, avoid those sugary cereals. You get the idea. Right now, your pantry might be stocked with all of those white foods. You want to keep it stocked with those 100% whole wheat foods. So these carbs also have a longer shelf life, so you can buy them in bulk if you have the capability to do so. Brown rice, plain oatmeal, quinoa, whole wheat cereal, any variety of beans, whole wheat pastas, barley, wheat berries, and oat bran. These are all things that are 100% whole wheat, really healthy choices, and they will stay on your shelf for a long period of time. Serving fruits and vegetables in your home and having everyone in the family enjoy them can be one of the challenging things to implement into your house. But remember, you want to be a superstar, not only in providing your family with nutritious foods, but also being a superstar when it comes to looking at specific fruits and vegetables. All fruits and vegetables have fiber and nutrients, but some have more nutritional value than others, like phytochemicals and additional antioxidants. You want to get at least 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit per day. That might sound like a lot if you don't have a lot in your diet right now, but they can be integrated into soups, salads, sandwiches, any type of sauce you may have created, smoothies, omelets, anything like that. You can add an extra serving of a fruit or a vegetable. Some of the best fruits and vegetables that you can buy are on this list here. Then don't forget about the fruit, and this is something that you can replace as a dessert or even eat on the go. Things like berries and cherries, grapes, peaches, apples, pears, something that you can hold in your hand. Kids are more likely to probably eat fruit than vegetables, so this is a good way to really get in the servings of fruit for your family and have them enjoy it as well. There's a lot of debate on if someone should buy something organic or not. You may have heard something called the dirty dozen. So according to the Environmental Working Group, the dirty produce that have the highest level of pesticides are in this dirty dozen group. These are the products that you want to consider buying organic if you are able. They are more expensive, so keep that in mind as well. But there's also some clean produce. So these have the least amount of pesticides, so you don't have to worry as much about these carrying diseases or added harm when you're serving them to your family. And whether you're buying organic or not, always try to choose locally grown produce. These are often cheaper, they're in season, they're fresher, healthier, and they're tastier. A lot of chain grocery stores are actually partnering with local farms, so you might be able to find locally grown produce at those grocery stores as well. We're going to change gears here and talk about fat. We really want to swap out those maybe not so good fats we might have in our house and replace them with the better fats for our diet. Getting rid of trans fats is the first step. Trans fat are truly toxic fats. They have no safe level of intake, so you want to get that out of your kitchen, get it out of your diet, off your shopping list completely. Do you buy trans fat in a stick? No, but it comes in commonly bought things like margarine, shortening, anything with a partially hydrogenated oil in the ingredients list is a trans fat. Then we're going to limit that saturated fat, so full fat dairy, sour cream, anything like that. But remember, kids under the age of 2, it's okay for them to have full fat dairy products, especially full fat milk. After the age of 2, they can switch over to a lower fat version. So have that available for them if needed. Also avoid and limit those fatty cuts of red meat. So when you see the marbling in the meat or those big chunks of white, that's actually saturated fat right there that you want to limit in your diet. Some other fatty cuts of red meat include hamburger, ribeyes, prime rib, regular ribs, New York strips, T-bones. Those have a lot of saturated fat in them. You also want to avoid processed meats. So this is anything like a deli meat, sausage, bacon, bologna, ham, hot dogs, pastrami, anything that's like a processed luncheon meat. You also want to avoid polyunsaturated fats. Those can be found in corn, soybean, safflower, and sunflower oils. These vegetable oils are high in omega-6 fats, which compete with omega-3s. We want to have more omega-3s in our diet than omega-6s. Remember to limit the red meat to 2 servings per week, and also limit that butter and use it for only when you need to, not in excess. Now we've taken out all those bad fats like bring in some good fats. So add in those monounsaturated fats. So those are the omega-3 fats. Those are things like extra virgin olive oil, canola oil, nuts, avocado. Olive oil is good for salad dressings. You can saute and roast vegetables in them, dip a bread into them. Canola oil is good for a more neutral flavor. And you can also use a non-stick spray. You also want to look for a butter that's trans fat free, like Smart Balance, and even organic butter if you're able to do so. Also, this is an easy swap. Swap out those high fat for low fat dairy options. You can choose skim, 1% low fat, non-fat, part skim or reduced fat. Replace those fatty cuts of meat. Now we said not to have the fatty cuts or the red meat. Now you want to replace them with lean cuts. Lean cuts of red meat include eye round, top sirloin, flank steak. Look at the packaging and look for extra lean, which means it's about 93 to 96% lean. Ground beef, veal cuts. Grass-fed is also an option if affordable and available. Nuts and peanut butter are a great way to get some good oils in, but even adolescents can benefit from these things. Studies have shown that adolescents who eat nuts and peanut butters and all nut butters can lower their cancer risks because these things are high in vitamin B and E, and they also have lots of minerals and resveratrol. In a study with 9,000 preteen and teenage girls, they were studied over 14 years, and those who had nuts and peanut butter every day were 68% less likely to develop breast benign disease, a risk factor for breast cancer. Nuts and seeds are a great option for everyone. Children, you might want to wait till they're over the age of 4 for a choking hazard. But these all offer the same benefits as that nuts and peanut butter. And then last but not least, remember those omega-3s. So we talked a little bit about omega-3s in our olive oils and so forth, but they're also found in oily fishes like salmon, rainbow trout, sardines, mackerel, halibut. But just beware if your family or anyone in your family has any allergies to nuts or fish products. If this is the case, you can always take a supplement that has omega-3s with a DHA built into it as well. Next, we're going to talk about proteins. Americans have no problem consuming proteins. It's just the source that they're coming from, whether it's a lean or fatty source. So you want to incorporate proteins into every meal, because proteins aid in appetite control, they maintain the muscles, and they're good for optimal growth in children. So try to have fish at least 3 times per week. Things like the oily varieties that we just talked about with omega-3s. Children, teens, women of childbearing years should all avoid fresh tuna and canned albacore due to the mercury levels. So a chunk light is fine 1 or 2 times per week. Shellfish is also something that you can incorporate into your diet. Things like shrimp, clams, oysters, lobster, mussels, scallops. Poultry is considered any cut of turkey or chicken. Skinless is best and has the less fat and calories. You want to avoid breaded versions, fried versions, anything that's adding back in that saturated or trans fats. And you can also substitute ground chicken and turkey for ground beef. Just like you swap out the full-fat dairy for skim products, you can really switch out any high saturated fat product with a leaner option as well. If you have the availability to it, wild game has great sources of protein. Those omega-3 fortified eggs, low-fat skim dairy, limit that red meat, and also limit the full-fat dairies like we talked about with the fat. Really quick and easy ways to add protein into a meal are things like beans, lentils, and peas, nuts and seeds, and soy foods. Any variety of beans work, same with nuts and seeds. Try some plain unsweetened organic soy milk, tofu, miso, edamame, roasted soy nuts. Those are all great options to try when you're first starting out. Our last You Are What You Eat series talks about drinks. So we want to make sure that we do our beverages right, especially when we're grocery shopping and bringing this stuff home. So you always want to have clean water available for your family to drink. Most households can drink tap water. It's less expensive, less stressful on the environment. It's also more monitored for local standards versus a bottled water. So at the grocery store, don't even buy those sugary, artificially sweetened beverages like energy drinks, sodas, iced teas that have a lot of sugar in them. Stick to the water. And then when you store your water, you want to make sure you're using safe containers. So safe containers include stainless steel, BPA-free bottles, and remembering never to reuse a plastic bottle because it can breed bacteria and kind of decay over time. Look for the number 7 stamped on the bottom of a reusable bottle. This is something you want to avoid. That means that it has BPA in it, and you don't want to have that product. If water gets a little bland for you over time or you wanted some added flavor, try some sparkling waters, seltzers, adding fruits or vegetables to your water, but water should be the primary beverage that you drink. As your child gets older, water should be the beverage that they drink as well. As a young child, they may have milk instead. No matter what the age, avoid sodas and sugary beverages. You can learn more about your water supply by looking at the environmental working groups online or asking a local advocate. Other options besides those waters are you can have a 100% vegetable juice. Just make sure that it's a low sodium option. Unsweetened teas. Coffee is okay for adults and teenagers. And 100% fruit juice is okay if those in your family are active and lean. They can have a limited amount of juice. Coconut water is very hydrating. You might have seen it in the grocery store lately. And also when you're sticking to milk for kids that are over 2, provide skim or 1%, maybe even lactose-free, soy milk, almond milk, any of those substitutions are fine. When we hear the information from the You Are What You Eat series and this recap today, we might think that everyone knows this information and applies it to their life. But that's not true, because the statistics of an average American shows that we consume about 130 pounds of sugar per year. A third of our carbohydrates are added sweeteners, so those white hazard foods. The average American is only 1 of 4 that gets enough exercise to avoid chronic disease. Only 3% of Americans qualify for making those 4 steps towards a healthier you, which include avoiding tobacco, maintaining a healthy weight, eating 5 or more fruits or vegetables a day, and exercising regularly. Americans have also increased their soft drink intake by 135% in the last 35 years. So that means sugary beverages are still the single largest source of calories in our day. So not only do these things affect us and the adult population, but it also affects our children. Remember our question at the beginning where we said that role modeling is the most important aspect in raising healthy children. So when we are not healthy as adults, it affects our children. How does it do this? Well, here are some statistics. On a day where a teen consumes fast food, they're ingesting an extra 310 calories. Empty calories, which means calories that have no nutrients in them, those make up about 40% of a 2 to 18-year-old's diet. So not only are kids affected by bad food habits, they're also sedentary. The average family views about 8 hours of television in a day. A third of 4 to 15-year-olds consume fast food on a regular basis. French fries and chips account for 41% of all of the veggies that people say that their children eat. And because of all these things, metabolic syndrome affects 25 to 30% of our obese youth. From 2002 to 2005, this is a staggering statistic. Medications for young adults and youth, they increased 100% for type 2 diabetes. They increased almost 47% for asthma, 41% for ADHD, and 15% for cholesterol. Remember, these are all in children under the age of 18. Not only are these things affecting our children internally and causing diseases, but obese children have rated their quality of life the same as those who have cancer and are undergoing chemotherapy. So the quality of life of these children is decreasing rapidly, all because of a sedentary and non-nutritious lifestyle. But if you have children in your household or have family members that have young children, you all have the power to change this. There are 10 golden guidelines on how to revamp your household and get these healthy habits going and have the old habits or the bad habits go by the wayside. So the most important step that you can take that trumps all others is to be that healthy role model. This is the golden rule. This works for healthy and unhealthy foods. If you eat healthy, your family will eat healthy. If you choose to have unhealthy foods, they will follow suit. The second one is to make your home a haven for healthy eating. So our environment affects our behavior. Although you can't control the outside world, studies show that what your kids eat at home sets them up for what they will prefer and the choices they will make for outside of the home. So keep that kitchen well stocked with readily available foods that are healthy options. Communicate about food in your household. Keep it positive. Positive communication around healthy food makes it more appealing. Talk to your kids about the importance of nutrition. We talk about all other health and safety related issues with our kids like smoking, alcohol, sex. Nutrition should not be left out. So always speak enthusiastically about wholesome foods and not negatively if the child isn't eating them. Number 4 is to sit down for family meals. So you want to involve your family in all the aspects of cooking. Studies show that kids and grown-ups who sit down for family meals consume less calories, sodium, sugar, and unhealthy fats. Produce amounts increase as well. But if this isn't a habit right now, don't aim for having every meal now be with your family. Slowly integrate this into your routine. So maybe 1 or 2 meals a week and then increase over time. In a 5-year study that was done, it showed that teenage girls and families who had 5 meals together a week were 50% less likely to smoke, use drugs, or drink alcohol. The more family dinners that preteens and teens took part in, the better their mental and emotional health and the less behavior problems. This also reduces the chance of obesity and eating disorders. Hopefully, if you're sitting together as a family, you are not watching TV as well. You want to limit TV not only as a whole, but also as you're eating dinner or any other meal as well. TV commercials very commonly advertise appealing but processed foods, especially on children's channels where things have bright colors, are fun, and that kids will gravitate towards. But even if you take away the commercials, watching TV encourages mindless eating. When you're distracted by a TV show and eating at the same time, you're not paying attention to what you're consuming. It also promotes inactivity. Sitting on the couch obviously is burning less than playing outside. According to Harvard's Department of Public Health, the relationship between television viewing and obesity is nearly as strong as a relationship between smoking and lung cancer. The food industry spends about $10 billion a year to market junk food, and kids are the prime targets, unfortunately. Fast foods, candies, desserts, chips, all these things, they account for about 70% of food commercials. During child program is even worse, and a study showed that junk food commercials airs every 5 to 8 minutes. So if your child is watching 2 hours of TV, imagine how bombarded they are with showing them junk food. And food ads don't only make us want to have that food, but they just get eating on the brain. And so when we do sit down to eat, even if it's not a food from a commercial, we want to eat more. And this is starting to morph into any type of screen time, whether it's TV, tablets, anything like that. So beware of the time and quality programming that your children watch. Number 6 is to limit your family's exposure to processed foods. If you're having family meals where you're planning, prepping, doing all those things together, most likely you won't have many processed foods in that meal. You want to stick as whole and natural as possible, even with snacks and seasonings. It's really important to limit processed foods, especially for young children, because the food that children eat up to 3 years old reinforces their inborn preferences. So if they consume a lot of fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, good carbohydrates before the age of 3, those are the things they will innately prefer. On the opposite spectrum, if they eat a lot of processed fat foods, their taste buds are going to prefer those things, and this is a really hard habit to change. Encourage them at a young age to make healthy choices so that they will continue with that lifestyle for the rest of their life. Number 7 is to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So eat those 3 meals. When you're eating these 3 meals, apply all the You Are What You Eat lessons and tips to your meals. So avoiding those white hazards, including oils, fruits and vegetables, and so forth. Prepare the same nutritious meal for your entire family. Don't be a short order cook. Always include those healthy proteins, vegetables, and whole carbohydrates. So get all those macronutrients into every meal. You also want to limit snacking. Now, snacking is not a bad thing, but as we know, kids will snack all day long if they could, and it's usually on those salty, sugary foods. The average American child snacks at least 3 times a day, getting 20% of their calories from snacks. Usually these snacks are consumed mindlessly, whether in front of the TV or sitting on the floor, and kids fill up on these when they don't want to eat nutritional meals afterwards. Try to stick to only having 1 or 2 snacks a day and make it a wholesome choice. The only thing you may want to allow in unlimited amounts are fruits and vegetables. Other healthy snacks include plain yogurt, cheese sticks, homemade smoothies, whole grain cereals, Kashi brand granola, hard-boiled eggs, things like that. The last 2 rules are to make sure at least one parent in the household can cook. Now maybe there's not any cook in your household, but if you practice and plan and repeat those steps, you can get better and better. And again, remember, incorporate the family into your planning and prepping stages. The first step you can do is invest in some quality cookware, like knives, cutting board, pots and pans. Use fresh ingredients, take advantage of dry herbs and spices, and plan ahead. That's anywhere from your grocery shopping list to prepping food, setting the table, and so forth. You can also cook extra for leftovers so that you're not cooking for every meal. Pressure cookers, crock pots, those are all great time savers. And you can buy some convenience foods like canned vegetables, rotisserie chickens, frozen fruits and vegetables to make this process a little easier. But remember, have fun. Try not to stress out about the process, but have fun with your family instead. Lastly, you want to create a culture of health. So hopefully by doing all 9 of these steps, this step will occur naturally. Now you might say to yourself, these steps and these tips and the You Are What You Eat series is all great, but my kid won't eat anything. So sometimes we have picky eaters on our hands. Some ideas for a picky eater is to just keep trying. Studies show that it can take 8 to 15 times before a child will attempt at eating something that you offer them. So you need to keep trying, but also remember to model. Try out the variety of foods with your children for 18 months if possible. This is when their palates are most receptive to different types of food. Remember to limit that snacking, especially if it's before mealtime, and get rid of that clean your plate rule. Children should pay attention to hunger cues in their body. Maybe your child has 1 or 2 healthy things that they like, but you want to add more to that list. Well, pair a new food with a food that they already like. For example, you can put some peas in a pasta dish, or add toppings to a pizza, put fruit with ice cream, pairing them together with something that they already like. Bridging is the term where you slowly change a food. So for example, if your child will only eat white bread, you might want to first try a multigrain and then a wheat instead of changing drastically from white to wheat. The last few tips are to keep junk food out of sight. Try not to purchase them, but if you do, don't keep them on the counter or where they're easily accessible. Ease the pressure. Don't get angry with a child if they don't like a food or if they're not eating what you want them to. Always include the entire family and be consistent. It might be tough at first, but this pays off because you are setting up children for the rest of their lives. Integrating the You Are What You Eat series into your home life can seem overwhelming. You want to make these changes gradually, and if you have already participated in the You Are What You Eat challenges, you may have made some of these changes with your family already. Remember, 1 step at a time. That way you increase your possibility of being successful. You can also do that by taking part in the Family Plan Challenge. What the Family Plan Challenge encourages you to do is to take each of the You Are What You Eat series challenges and to reinforce them into your family week by week. Then by week 6, you can choose which of these challenges you want to incorporate into your everyday. We hope you have been able to learn how to take all of the steps that you learned in the You Are What You Eat series, apply them to your life, apply them to your household, and succeed. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at healthydirections@hne.com. Thank you for taking part in this webinar. Have a great day.